Remember yesterday we had a guest on McConnell about Notre Dame and the fact that they really they were out of breath trying to find an offensive coordinator. They ended up absolutely finding one who was on staff after Ludwig at Utah eventually said no, or they didn't want to do the buyout, or both. So this is something. Michael Campbell, who watches our show, is a huge Notre Dame fan. He said I could share this with you. And let's read this. The absolute tone, this is from Douglas S. Sant, a Notre Dame fan. The absolute tone deafness of your response to the fan base's anger, this was in reaction to not being able to handle the buyout, or they didn't want to, and then, of course, Swarbrick said, hey, we have a donation link, whatever, is an absolute joke. You didn't even address the issues except to put a little savvy spin on it. Then you had the audacity to ask for donations. Seriously, that's one of the most arrogant things I've seen. I cannot emphasize enough how embarrassing you are to not only Our Lady, but yourself. You need to retire. You have done nothing but hold this program down. Go Irish. All right, I'm going to respond. You guys all, relax. Now, Michael Campbell said Notre Dame fan base is done with Swarbrick. Relax a little bit. We got another story today when I think people need to take a deep breath and relax. Should he have done the donations thing? I don't know. Was it flippant? Yes. Was it serious? Maybe. He was, I think, joking because he took so much heat. You guys can agree or disagree with me.
No, I just for my own clarity, who's this from and who's this directed
to?
It's
a fan directed to the Notre Dame athletic director
for the. I thought,
when he said, "Hey, I know,"
like a comment,
and he put up a couple of links. Yeah, I was given permission to use it. It was an email to Swarbrick.
It can be kind of confusing if you don't know exactly what we're talking about.
I was saying that at the beginning.
Who
I
we
tried
talked
to explain it at the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to clarify a little further because there's a lot of names that maybe everybody doesn't follow that story closely, knows who all these people are. But that's kind of the gist that we got, right? And talking to our guy yesterday was that they're not happy, and that, I even brought up the whole the fact that Swarbrick said what he said and then said, like, here's the donation link without even providing an explanation. So, yeah, I'd imagine there are people that are pissed about that. And when you see that they go through all that effort and you have a guy who's at the basketball game being paraded or at least being, visible, and that guy doesn't get the job, which, would typically never happen. You at least wouldn't know a person was there if they didn't think they had a shot at it in most of these hirings. And if they're out in public, then there's probably a pretty good chance they're going to be the guy ultimately. So for that to not be the case and for the rumor to be that it's over money, knowing how much money that they have, yeah, that's going to tick fans off. And then you tell them, no, it's not money, but I'm not going to tell you what it really is, but give us your money. Yeah, screw you, Jack Swart. Like, if I was a Notre Dame fan, I'd be pissed too. Like, the least you could do is just give me you don't have to make it public. You don't have to hold a press conference, but just tell us donors who are trying to pony up for this OC, like, what the problem is and why we didn't get who we apparently wanted to get. That's more than a fair request if I'm a money person for the Irish.
Roger Dodger said it was talking down to the Notre Dame fans. The donation request shows he's disconnected.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that was a bad choice on Swarbrick's part. You could just say, look, it did not work out. Like we thought it was going to. It didn't work out. There are a lot of factors at play here. Yes, the buyout is one of them. And that's a bad look when you have that, the $1 billion in your endowment fund. It doesn't seem to kind of be worried about buying a coach whose buyout's probably no more than $1.5 million. So a kind of a drop in the bucket to an ever-growing and expanding endowment at Notre Dame. Yeah, and look, Swarbrick is a very powerful individual in college athletics, as we talked about at length yesterday. But that's for the outside. That's for Notre Dame and being able to negotiate their TV deal and all the different things within college football. He's been good at that. It's clear that there's a disconnect with him and the little people, so to speak, in that, look, Notre Dame's competed for a lot in the last few years. They've competed for national championships. They've been in a college football playoff. But Notre Dame fans are built on the bedrock of, and they believe themselves to be the greatest football program that's ever football program. But it's been a very long time since they've actually hoisted the trophy.
1988.
Yeah.
Lou Holtz, Rice, the quarterback, Tony Rice.
Exactly.
And if they were pouring money into, like, NIL and things like that, the way A&M was, I'd lump them in that same category. But it'll be fascinating to see where they are in a couple of decades. Because you talk about a team that's been knocking on the door, and gets a lot of attention, and rightfully so, because of what they are historically, but has fallen short. I just don't think they have these same crazed expectations and that like starving. You just need a drop of water. You're so like
No.
like they don't have that to the level of what some programs like an A&M might have. Otherwise, I think they'd be very similar there. But yeah, I do think that they kind of have to figure out. In some ways, there is clearly a disconnect between management and the fandom. And so where is Notre Dame as a player in this money world? Because they have it, but they also have a certain way of doing things. And, if that way that they've been doing it is what's preventing them from ultimately getting over their own little mountaintop, then, yeah, there's going to be some pushback. And so you see some of it there.
Yeah, some other programs are looking at what others are doing, and they're like, Mac Rhodes has mentioned that at Baylor. They already are asking for a lot, and they don't have the massive, I guess you say, alumni base. They have donors, don't get me wrong. They'll always have the money they need, but you wonder. And so Swarbrick took some heat for those comments when he mentioned here's a donation link and probably was in bad taste. It didn't bother me much, but obviously it did some others. There's a little bit later.